Muskegon, West Michigan. I'm catching up with Richard Rodriguez, convicted of second-degree murder. We were in prison together a few decades ago.
71 years old, you did 39 years in prison. What year was it when you went to prison?
1982.
You've been now experiencing prison re-entry for a year and a half. How do you feel?
Well, it's different being out, everything's been, modern technology has changed for me. I'm just blending in right now, trying to make ends meet and taking care of myself. And I'm going to school right now. I'm in college. I'm taking up nursing. I've just been certified by the Red Cross to assist the elderly and the handicapped. I'm taking it little by little because I can't jump into a lot of things because a lot of things do surface up.
Rodriguez wasn't much into education until he went to prison. He took as many classes as he could. Then came President Clinton's war on crime. Harsher sentences grew prison populations and killed federal Pell Grants for the incarcerated.
What were your thoughts when they took the Pell Grant back in '94?
Well, there's nothing I can say, I couldn't whine and complain about it. They do what they do,
Professor Richard Ray's at Hope College in Holland. He knows about that. He's working with prisoners trying to get college degrees.
That redlined incarcerated students out of Pell eligibility, and the number of college and prison programs in the United States of America dropped to 8 after that.
Dropped to 8?
8.
The number of...
Yes, 8.
In the 90s, hundreds of programs simply vanished. Imagine all the prisoners who lost that opportunity. But still, some are getting that chance. We're at Fresh Coast Alliance in Muskegon, a training center for people in recovery.
You want to start?
Michael Dutler leads a class called Managing Relapse. He came out of prison 5 years ago after 26 years, a drug addict who committed second-degree murder.
Could you have ever imagined doing what you're doing now?
No way. 19-year-old me had no self-esteem. I had no self-worth.
At the Hanlon Correctional Facility in Ionia, Dutler began college through Calvin University in Grand Rapids. The Calvin Prison Initiative started in 2015.
You were educated and received what did you receive?
Before I left in 2018, I was able to complete an associate's degree, and then I completed a social work degree at the main campus in 2020.
So Calvin wasn't just teaching you while you were incarcerated. They wanted you to come to their campus.
They absolutely welcomed me. I came out knowing that I would have support at Calvin University. I was blessed with a donor who covered my undergraduate costs.
Calvin relies on donors, a theological approach inspired by a prison program in Louisiana.
Have you ever thought about how
Dutler brings his study of faith and leadership along with his life experience to his work.
Let's go out for dinner, absolutely. But because I'm in recovery, I need to go to a place that does not serve alcohol and just kind of create a boundary around that.
What would you tell those who oppose such programming with all due respect, for murder?
Sure, absolutely. So one argument I would make is simply that from an economic standpoint, there's been studies that have shown that for every dollar you spend on education in prison, you're saving 5 for the cost of incarceration. As they're continuing education, once they're in, recidivism rates drop.
Recidivism, reoffending, returning to prison. Michigan reports a recidivism rate at 22%, but education can reduce that number. One study shows that recidivism rate drops to less than 14% with an associate's degree, down to 5.6 with a bachelor's degree, hitting 0 with a master's degree.
I think a lot of that has to do with upward mobility, the opportunities that are available through an education, but I'm also going to make a case that it's that formative effect of education so that you're able to see yourself through more than just the worst thing that you've done in life. You're able to see hope, you're able to understand possibility, you're able to understand life differently for sure.
A few minutes away, you'll find another college and prison program at the Muskegon Correctional Facility.
It's a journey, but every day I'm improving myself in the best way I can.
Rene Rodriguez, a first-degree murder lifer. I knew him too back in my prison days. He's also a Calvin University graduate. Statistically, there's little chance he'll ever get out, but now he's a tutor with the Hope Western Prison Education Program.
I'm a first-generation college graduate, and considering when I first entered the prison system, I could barely read and write. I had a 3rd grade reading level and a 5th grade math level. Obtaining my college degree gave me a sense of achievement. And at the same time, it built my level of confidence. So I'm proud of that. That's something that I never imagined that I would do. I would say that my college degree is an indication of my transformation.
Hope College and Western Theological Seminary started the program in 2019. The Hope and Kelvin programs believe educating prisoners like Renee is worth it.
He is a servant leader, and he has now been trained with our BA program to serve in the area of academics, peer mentoring, and ministry.
Thank you, Dr. Ray.
Hope's Richard Ray. He's making the rounds. It's an informal session. Students at work, like a college classroom you might find anywhere.
What does the average student look like at Muskegon Correctional Facility?
Right. The average Hope College student at Muskegon Correctional Facility is 47 years old. We enroll and are interested in admitting into our program men with long sentences. How about orientation? How's that going? We want and believe and think that there's good evidence for our students as they become sort of transformed by their own education, serving as exemplars for the rest of their peers.
As it relates to behavior, do you see a difference?
Yes, and I see a difference. Oftentimes when people think about that question, they only think about the difference when somebody gets out of prison, and we do see that difference. But there's also a community that exists in facilities like this, and we see the impact here as well.
This is a community of 1,294 prisoners with, 250 staff. This is a community. We want the same thing in here that you want in society. We want control. We want people to behave. And the education program most definitely assists with that.
We think when you educate even a small portion of a prison population, violence in the prison goes down.
Is that what we're witnessing?
Yeah, we are witnessing that.
It's a community of learners, and you're constantly being surrounded by that, and that's the goal.
Now there's news. This past July, federal Pell Grants are available again for the incarcerated.
This is a game changer. Across the country, we could see 750,000 people go back to college who are incarcerated. And those people are very unlikely to return to prison once they're released.
To the average person who has no direct contact with the prison system, who's struggling to pay for college,
Yeah.
what would you tell them?
If you're in prison, it's very likely, almost overwhelmingly true, that you're a member of a marginalized or minority group, that you're very poorly educated, and that you're extremely poor. And so if we want a more equitable society, if you really care about social justice, you've got to be concerned about raising all those boats.
What the Pell Grants are going to do for other universities and colleges is going to allow them to start. Maybe they don't have the kind of donor base we have. That's going to allow then a lot of colleges and universities to really imagine that this is possible. Because let's face it, if we say let's start a new program, one of the questions is how do we pay for it? Where's the money come from? And we don't want the prisoners to pay for it, but we don't want them to even walk out of prison with debt.
Meanwhile, for Kelvin and Hope, the Pell Grants will help, but the fundraising continues. Professor Richard Ray talks about his list of benefactors.
You'd run your finger down the page and you'd say, ooh, that person's pretty liberal, holds liberal views and so forth. And then you'd run your finger down the page a little further and say, wow, this person is like the most conservative person I've ever met, And they all see the value in this.
95% plus of the people who are in prison are going to return to the community someday. So we want to make that investment in them. And so it's not diminishing what they did, but it's helping to ensure they don't do it again.
Incarceration alone is not enough to uproot criminal behavior. People need education. I would say that my college degree is an indication of my transformation, a sort of a renewal of my mind in the way I think, the way I carry myself. I would say that it shaped who I am now as the person that I like to be.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.